Resourceful Designer, episode 219. Your design clients still don't know what you do.
Welcome to the Resourceful Designer podcast, offering solutions to streamline your graphic and web design business so you can get back to designing. And now your host. His favorite show as a kid was the Flintstones. Mark Decout.
Welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. In this week's episode, I'm going to share vital information you should be sharing with your clients and share a resource that'll help you manage interactions on a website. But before I get to all of that, well, here's a little bit of what I've been up to. The SSL issue that I mentioned in a previous episode, I've got that all taken care of, figured out why the site wasn't using the certificate the way it was supposed to. I also completed 3 new podcast cover artwork designs this week, so that was a lot of fun. I also made some much needed updates to my podcast branding website, where I'm selling these podcast services. I decided to eliminate some of the things that I offer. There were some of the services I just decided I didn't want to offer, such as social media posts. I will do social media branding, so brand your social media across all the platforms. But creating individual images for posts for people, I just decided I didn't want to do that. So I eliminated that and some other things on the site. Just clean it up a little bit. Make it easier for people to make decisions. So that was a lot of fun to do. I always love working on my own stuff that way. I also signed a new client to a web maintenance plan. They're asking me to design a new website for them, but they have an existing site and they asked me to take it over. So we migrated it over to my hosting because I only manage sites that are hosted with me. So we migrated that site over and I started maintaining it, and I will be maintaining their second site once I build it for them. So that's just a little bit of what I've been up to. Now, in the Resourceful Designer community, we've been having a lot of conversation this week. The Friday meetings, I'm recording this on Saturday, by the way. Yesterday, we had our Friday meeting video meetup, and it turned out really well. I think we're going to keep the Friday time slot because we're getting a lot of people, a lot of interaction, which is a lot of fun. Catching up over the long week, finding out what people have been up to and what their plans are for the following week. In the community, we had some great discussions on web hosts and different platforms and what each platform has to offer, as well as a lot of discussion on WordPress. Several of the community members were having some issues, or maybe I shouldn't say issues. They were trying to do stuff that they were unfamiliar with in WordPress, and the rest of us came to help and offer suggestions. And it's always fun when we do that sort of thing, and then we see that it works out for the community member that was asking to begin with. So there's that and lots of other great conversations going on, lots of encouragement going on. We had one community member post a video that he's doing for a client. It's I think it was 20-second video that's going to be a Facebook ad and asking for our advice. And we gave him some pointers and it's really coming along. I can't wait to see the finished piece. It's always nice for a designer to have people to bounce ideas off in this way, people that you know and that you can trust. So if you're looking for something like this, then the Resourceful Designer community is for you. To learn more, visit resourcefuldesigner.com/community, where you can sign up and join. And now, this week's resource of the week. And this week's resource is a WordPress plugin for creating forms, and it's Gravity Forms. Now, I've been using Gravity Forms for, I can't even remember. It's been a long time. It's been my go-to for any website form that I need. It's one of the standard plugins that I install on all sites because I always include a contact form on every site I build, and Gravity Forms is the way I do it. And it's great for simple things like that, but it's also really good for much more complex forms. For example, I mentioned that I did some updates to the podcast branding website this past week. Well, one of the updates I made was to the form. I decided previously, whenever people would purchase the services, it would take them to another platform where they could pay, and once they pay, it would redirect. I decided that I wanted to change that and have people stay completely on the website. So I added a credit card part through Gravity Forms. I have everything set up through Stripe, and there's a Stripe add-on for Gravity Forms. So It adds the credit card field and all that information. And because of that, the credit card asks for address and all that stuff. I decided to split my form into two, which is so easy in Gravity Forms. As you're building the form, you just say, I want a page break here. So on the first page, you enter all the information about your podcast name, the products that you want to order from me, and any other information. And then once all that is done, I added a button at the bottom that says go to payment, and click on that. It goes to page 2 of the form where they get to fill out their credit card information, their address, and all that good stuff, and then they could pay. So Gravity Forms makes it so easy. It integrates with so many things. You can have people sign up to your newsletter, your email list directly through Gravity Forms. I love the conditional logic on the form. I have one form set up on a website. It's a membership site. It's actually for a golf course. And when people sign up, I have the form set up so that if somebody wants to sign up as a couple, the form automatically adds a spouse line to the form. If they're signing up as an individual, the spouse line does not show up because it's not needed. And not just that, like as you're going through the form, there's different things like where it asks for contact information. If the spousal contact information is different, that part will appear. The same thing if they're signing up for a junior member, which is somebody that's under 18, then the form changes depending on which selection they pick. So anyways, all of this to say that Gravity Forms for years has been my go-to. I love it. It is so easy. I could create an entire form in just a couple of minutes. It's so intuitive to use. And yet it is so robust as well that you can do just about anything, including payments, including signups, including lead magnets, downloads, and all sorts of stuff. They have hundreds of integrations and plugins that you can use along with the form. So that's this week's Resource of the Week. And I am an affiliate of Gravity Forms because I love it so much. So if you are interested in checking it out, visit resourcefuldesigner.com/gravityforms. And that's this week's Resource of the Week. And now, your design clients still don't know what you do. Before launching Resourceful Designer on September 30th of 2015, I sat down and wrote out a list of over 50 topics that I could discuss on the show. I wanted to be sure that I wouldn't run out of things to say. And now, almost 5 years later, and this will be episode 219, I still haven't covered all 50 of those original topics. In fact, the idea behind many of my episodes, including this one here, comes from my own experiences in the week or sometimes weeks prior to recording. Maybe I'll read something in a book or an article, or it might even be on social media, and it gets me thinking of an episode topic and something emerges from that. Maybe something I hear on a podcast or on a TV show while watching the news that sparks some sort of idea. And of course, it's often just me interacting with my clients, and something happens that turns into a teaching moment that I use on the show. All of this to say that in all the years I've been doing Resourceful Designer, I'm never truly lacking for content. There's some weeks where I might not be sure what I want to talk about, but it's not because I don't have content to share. But back before I actually started Resourceful Designer, I wasn't so sure. That's why I wrote out that original list of 50 topics. It was to prove to myself that there was enough things to talk about. And I remember when I was getting ready to start the show, and I was looking at that list thinking, wow, there's 50 topics here. Which ones should I cover first? Because there was a lot of good ones after all. But in the end, I settled on one topic that I thought was the most important one to share with home-based designers, freelance designers. I don't like using that term, but freelance designers. It was the most important thing that I thought these designers should know. And that's why I recorded episode 2 of Resourceful Designer, which was titled, Do Your Design Clients Know What You Do? Now, in case you're wondering, episode 1 of the podcast was actually an introduction episode. I didn't have a topic on it. It was just there to let people know what Resourceful Designer is all about. So episode 2 was actually my very first topic I covered. And the topic I decided to record was about telling your clients what it is you do. Because, believe it or not, most of your clients don't know. I know, that sounds strange, but it's true. Most of your clients don't know what services you offer beyond what it is you're currently doing for them. And now almost 5 years after recording and releasing that episode, the situation hasn't changed. Earlier this week, a longtime client of mine, one that dates back to my days at the print shop. So I've been working with him for, I guess going on 20 years, if not more. Well, he asked me if I could give him a copy of his logo in vector format, which is one of those questions that clients don't usually ask unless there's a really good reason. So curious, I emailed him back and said, well, what do you need it for? And he replied that he hired a designer to make a flyer for his clinic. Now, of course, this surprised me. So I picked up my phone and I gave him a call right away. And I said, his name's Mike. I said, Mike, have I done something wrong? Why are you looking at other designers to design your flyer instead of asking me to design it? And then it was his turn to be surprised. First, he told me, no, not at all. We have a great relationship. He loves working with me. But I do websites and he needed a flyer. Now, before I go any further with this story, let me give you a little bit of background on this client. I designed this client's logo, his entire brand. I designed his business card for him. I designed the signage that's on the outside of his clinic, as well as signage that's on the inside of his clinic. I designed rack cards for him. I've done several posters that are on the walls within his clinic, and so much more that I can't remember. On top of that, I designed his original website, and I've redesigned his website 2 times since then over the past 15 years. The last time being at the end of 2018 is the most recent website he's had me design for him, or redesign, I should say. And when I reminded him of all that other stuff I had designed for him, he actually tried to dispute it. He told me that his logo, his business cards, the rack cards, the posters, the signage, etc., 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 that was all designed by the print shop where I used to work, which technically is correct. I designed all of that stuff when I was still working at the print shop. However, even though he does remember that I worked at the print shop before starting my own business, he doesn't actually remember me being the one who designed his stuff. He remembers going in and sitting down with the owner on a regular basis. Every time he'd go in, he'd go sit down with the shop owner and talk to him. And he would explain the project with the shop owner. Now, he knew that the print shop had several designers working there. He just doesn't remember that I was the designer who worked on his projects. And this surprised me even more. He has one of the most recognizable brands in our community. He's one of those very outstanding citizens, does a lot for the community, is always giving and participating in things. So people know his brand. And that's something I've been very proud of over the years. And yet he didn't remember that I had designed it for him? Talk about bursting the old ego here. He then told me that he had several print-related things designed over the years by various designers. And then I asked him, I says, well, you remember that I did work at a print shop and know all about print design, so why did you never ask me to design any of them? And his response was, I thought you left the print shop to get into web design. I didn't realize you still design for print. Now, I'm not blaming my client. This falls wholly on my shoulders. In hindsight, it was pretty stupid of me not to realize that in the 15 years I've been on my own, this client has only ever contacted me for his website. What kind of business goes 15 years without needing print design? So this is fully on me, not him. He had a preconceived notion of what I do, and I never corrected him. But you see, that's the issue. I never thought I had to educate this client because of our history together, all the stuff I had designed for him. But he didn't remember that. In my mind, I had designed all sorts of print material for him, so it only made sense that if he needed anything else, he would come to me. But in his mind, I was his web guy. He never considered me for all those other projects. Now, unfortunately, he's already signed a contract and given a deposit to the other designer for the flyer, so I'm out of luck on that one. But he did assure me that the next time he needs something, he'll let me know because he loves working with me. And I guess this was a good thing. He's never liked or he's never gone back to a designer. I'm the only designer he keeps going back to. Every time he has something else done, he finds another designer to do it because there's been nobody that's really impressed him that much, which is good to know. But what's even more frustrating is He's actually referred several web clients my way over the years, which only makes me realize how much I probably lost out on over the years because he wasn't referring me for print design. I could only shake my head at this whole situation. But there is a silver lining. When this happened earlier this week, first of all, I knew I'd end up talking about it on the podcast. It sparked an idea, and I said, I know I talked about it way back in episode 2, but it merits talking about again. So I actually went back and listened to that episode number 2, the first episode I ever released beyond the introduction episode. And in that episode, I shared a very similar frustration with another client. But I also shared a strategy that I used that helped, something that honestly I'd completely forgotten about. I used to send quarterly emails to all my clients, letting them know what sort of fun projects I had completed recently for other clients. I would make sure to include a variety, stuff like web projects and print jobs, including t-shirts and maybe a trade show booth if I had done any, vehicle wraps, signage, all of it. It was a way for me to showcase my work and to inform my clients of what I was capable of. And it worked. Clients would often contact me after receiving my email, asking for information on one of the projects I mentioned doing for another client. They wanted to know if it was something that I can do for them or how they can incorporate that. And often their email or their phone call would include a statement of, "Oh, I didn't know you did that sort of thing." So I actually had the solution to this problem. And then I forgot about it. As life would have it and things happen, what started out as a quarterly email to my clients became less frequent until it eventually just drifted and died off altogether. I stopped sending them. It's actually been several years now since I sent out the last one. But trust me, I'm planning on reviving it now. But in the meantime, after this, let's call it enlightening conversation with this client earlier this week, I did send out personalized emails to all my clients. Now, I personalized each one with details about that client's business, about our relationship together, and about their industry. But I did at first, what I did is I wrote a generic base email that I composed, and then afterwards, I adjusted it specifically for each client. So I'll read you the actual base email, what I first wrote before I edited it for each individual client. So it's hi and then the client's name. As we approach the far side of the pandemic lockdown and life slowly gets back to the quote unquote new normal, more and more businesses are being allowed to reopen. A lot of people are wondering how their past routines will be different as we emerge from isolation. Now is the perfect time to let your clients know what to expect from you. If you require new or updated marketing material, please let me know. Here are some ideas for you to consider that may help your marketing effort. Then I have a bulleted list here of posters, postcards, flyers, t-shirts, signage, both interior and exterior, display stands, vehicle wraps, digital ads, including Google, Facebook, Instagram, etc., website updates, trade show supplies. Then I go on to say, if you require any help designing these or any other print or digital material, please let me know. I'd love to help. I wish you all the best in your return to operation. Sincerely, Mark DeCote. And as I said, I added or altered parts of that for each client. I didn't want them to think I was sending out an email blast to a whole bunch of people. I wanted each client to think that I was writing just to them. And you know what? I already got my first hit. One of my website clients contacted me to ask about postcards for her shop. Not only was she not considering postcards until she read my email, but she also forgot that I did print design. She said in the back of her mind she knew, but she considered me her quote-unquote web guy. So it was a nice reminder that I did all that other stuff. So all of this to say, don't take for granted that your clients know what services you offer, because there's a very good chance they don't. And it doesn't matter if you list all your services on your website or you showcase different projects in your portfolio or in your other marketing material, because chances are your existing clients are not looking at that stuff. They don't need to. They already have a relationship with you. Your contact information is in their contact list. They've got no reason to go look at that stuff, which doesn't help you and it doesn't help them. So unless you keep reminding them of what services you offer, there's a very good chance that they'll only know you for that one project that they originally hired you for. So take some time, sooner rather than later, to reach out. Inform your current and your past clients about all the things you can do. Because even your past clients that you haven't dealt with in years, may not realize that there are services you can offer them that they can use. And who knows, by reaching out like this, you may just end up with some new projects to add to your schedule. So I would love to know, what do you do to keep your clients informed on the services that you offer them? Do you have something in place? Please share it by leaving a comment for this episode at resourcefuldesigner.com/episode 219. Thank you for listening in and bearing with my frustrations over this situation. I really hope that you do a better job than I did at making sure this situation never arises. Now, before I go, I want to remind you one more time of the resource of the week, which is Gravity Forms, my favorite plugin. It is a premium plugin. You do have to pay for it, but it's my favorite plugin for creating forms on website. And as I said, it's part of my core plugins that I install on every single website I do. Without hesitation, Gravity Forms gets installed. And if you want to know more on what it can do and all the integrations it has, please visit my affiliate link at resourcefuldesigner.com/gravityforms. And if you're looking to take your design business to the next level and you're looking for a group to act as accountability partners, as motivators, as mentors, as sounding boards, or if you're just looking for friends in the design space, then consider joining Resourceful Designer Community at resourcefuldesigner.com/community. Until next time, I am Mark Decote wishing you all the best with your design business. And as I do every episode, I want to remind you to stay creative.
Thanks for listening to the Resourceful Designer podcast at resourcefuldesigner.com.